Hi, Erica. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm really excited to be here with you. Tell me, please, what's your swim story?
Well, my swim story. I guess I would start that maybe I was destined to love the water and swim. My parents actually met at a pool lifeguarding and swimming, and coaching, and their siblings on both sides had a big connections to the water and swimming. So maybe it's in our blood. I don't know, but I can never remember a time where the water like I haven't had a memory of the water ever since I was little. My parents said bath time was my favorite time. I'd be splashing around, starting to move my arms. They said I was floating when I was 1 year old. And I also was very intrigued by the ocean and the plants and the animals and everything about it. I would read so many books as a kid, and I wanted to be a marine biologist and all of the things around the ocean. So I think that led to a couple different touch points where I was able to live out that, love and excitement about the water. I actually learned to scuba dive when I was about 14 or 15 years old. So that
Wow.
has led me all over the world and seeing just some amazing environments. I don't think anything is better than jumping off of a boat into the water with all your gear and just being completely transformed into um, a different world that is so different than being on the land. And I think it sounds cheesy, sort of magical. It's very serene and peaceful, and it's just very freeing. So that has been just an amazing way to experience the water and given me a lot of confidence in the water. And over the years, my parents would also take us to the beach in the summers. So, we'd get there early and I'd grab my boogie board and jump into the waves and just loved spending the whole day experiencing all the sights and sounds and being able to catch waves, getting pummeled by waves, doing it all over again was just so fun.
Where was that you grew up on what beach?
So I grew up in the Northern Virginia area for the most part. So we would go out to like Ocean City, Maryland, or New Jersey, or sort of those areas.
Tell me a little bit like the coolest place you went scuba diving.
Oh man,
Just pick one. You can tell us two if you want.
it's so hard. Um, Most recently, I went to Belize. My husband and I went to Belize, and so we got to scuba dive in the big blue hole there. So that was probably the deepest I've ever gone. I forget how far we were down there, but there were just so many different vibrant types of wildlife we saw that it was really special.
When I think about scuba diving, I feel like it's like you get to be in the fish tank. Like versus I don't know if that's how, but the amount of gear and training, everything that's required has always been a huge barrier for me, and maybe just not having it, the opportunity comes. So anyway, it sounds like a really cool way to really, because get to know get to know the water and appreciate the water. I love that.
Yeah, just being able to see creatures in their natural environment and just being sort of a fly on the wall or efficiency, I don't know,
Mhm.
is just, I think, such an amazing experience. It's also, your breathing and your buoyancy and your proprioception in the water. Like there's something to that too that translates a lot to swimming and other pieces of your life. So I think that it's been great. So it's funny, I was thinking back about about my touch points with the water, and I realized I had forgotten. I actually would sleep under the water as a kid. And by that I mean I had a religious education teacher when I was little who was also an aspiring artist. And I think we agreed to keep her kids, watch her kids, and they were pretty young. So I think she was very pumped about this. But she painted a floor to ceiling mural on two whole bedroom walls of mine of an underwater ocean theme.
Oh,
So I
wow.
literally played and studied and slept with the fish and the sharks and the dolphins and the whales
Wow.
my whole life. So that's taking it to another level is a little extra, but
That's really cool. It reminds me of my first house that I bought so many years ago, but like I painted my room like the color of the sea in Thailand that I like anyway, but it was that same idea. I just wanted to be in and amongst the water in every waking moment. It's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty neat. I have to find a picture of that.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess all that to be said, I had obviously a love of the water and interest in the water. I played many sports growing up, but I think the one that stuck the most was swimming. And I did swim competitively all year round on club teams. And, we had a big summer league in Northern Virginia. And so we had a summer pool, and that was very built out. And I think I was a decent swimmer, as competitive I could. I held my own. I wouldn't say I was the best out there, but swimming became very much another way to experience the water. And even though it was competitive, I built community. I did it with lots of good friends. And it was something we did as a family. My siblings swam to some degree. My parents volunteered. And it was just fun and still a lot of play, even though it was competitive. So yeah, I did actually competitively swim throughout my
Mhm.
childhood. Um, but I think whether it was just changing interests or a little bit of burnout or whatever the case may be, I feel like I did sort of peak in middle school and I picked up playing lacrosse. And so I actually played in college at a Division I school, and that sort of started my gap a little bit in the water and swimming and whatnot. But all these great experiences and connection and love for the ocean and the water, gave me a great foundation to sort of pull back on if and when I wanted to start swimming again. So,
Yeah.
which spoil alert, I did start swimming again.
Yeah, what was it that drew you back to the water?
I think when I was in college, I saw these people walking around that were part of a triathlon team. And I said, what's that? And, after researching more, I'm like, oh, well, I can swim, I can run with lacrosse, this biking thing, I'm not sure about, but I'm sure I could do it. So I just sort of tuck it back in my mind. And, after graduating, moving back to work for a couple years, I started a graduate degree. I moved to Tennessee and started a graduate degree. And that's when I joined the triathlon team. So, like many maybe open water swimmers, my gateway to swimming, open water swimming was triathlons. And I did actually at the time join a master swim team just to get back in the water, but it was more pool based. I think at the time I didn't realize you could even swim open water on its own. But it felt good to again build community and have a little fun getting back into swimming. At that time, it's when all the really good college swimmers get burnt out and they don't swim. So that age group, right? Early 20s is you feel really fast. There's not many
Mm,
people competing.
mhm, yeah.
So yeah, I think triathlons is maybe what drew me back in, but it wasn't until I moved from Nashville to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I started swimming with a group there called the Cows, the Chattanooga Open Water Swimmers. And they were just a very welcoming and inclusive group. There were lots of people at lots of stages of walks of life, but we were all connected with a love of the water and swimming. And I guess at that point, we'd meet on, once a week, swim in the Tennessee River, go out for beers and food afterwards, and just have fun. And so I think at that point, I got sucked in and never looked back.
Was I'm wondering, the thing that popped in my head was like, what was it like having gone scuba diving in beautiful places like that versus you're in the Tennessee River now, right? So
Oh
what was
gosh.
the
Yeah. It's like murky. You don't know what's underneath you.
Mhm.
At one point, someone said they came out with a leech on the I'm like I don't, I mean, it's interesting because my husband had family members on that side that had been in Chattanooga actually, but a while back. And when I told them I was swimming in the Tennessee River, they just looked at me like I was crazy because I think at one point it was very polluted and no
Mhm.
one stepped foot in the river, but it has cleaned up a lot over the years, which has been amazing that we can actually swim in it now. But yeah, it's definitely a different environment. I think what I found fun is one, the connection with nature and just being outside and being out of a chlorinated pool. Not that I hate the pool, but I've always loved to be outside hiking or backpacking or traveling, and doing special things outside. So I think that was one connection point. And two, the river is a dammed river, so the flow of the water is different depending on how much water they're releasing. So it can be like you're playing a game. We would sometimes go behind the pillars of the bridge span and we'd do pillar sprints. So we'd sit in the eddies and one at a time, like get swept away by the fast current and try to fight our way back into the eddy. And it just was like a little game and play. So um yeah, I spent a lot of time learning from other people, and sort of tagged along. When someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do this swim," or "I'm going here," or doing this, or my aunt's a big open water swimmer, so she would tell me about things she was doing, and I'm like, "Sure, I'll tag along."
Give me an example of what that.
So, I mean, Swim the Suck is in Chattanooga. So my first time experiencing that was kayaking for someone. And then, we had groups of people that would swim. So I did that a couple times. But, I think I was 9 months postpartum and my aunt's like, "Oh, I'm going to go swim around Lido Key." And so I said, "Sure, I'll go swim around Lido Key," or she really wanted to go out to Portland to do the 12 Bridges swim or, stuff like that. There were many along the way. As I was thinking back, and I think it wasn't until I signed up for the Border Busters swim not that long ago was like the first swim I actually signed up for that I didn't feel like I was tagging along with someone else.
That's cool though that you had the confidence to 9 months postpartum to go swim around Lido Key. So tell us a little bit of what that feeling was like to just to be able to do that. Obviously, you'd had this community that drew you in. You were learning a lot from other people, but you have a background in swimming, so you have a confident. But there's still something that has to. Even if I feel like even if you're surrounded by swimmers, there's still something that's got to be in you to draw you to either distance or adventure. I mean, obviously, you're enjoy the adventure, even just scuba diving, whatever, all the things that you've followed. But can you think of like what it was that I don't know if it's like any kind of sensation or emotion that you were like longing for and signing up for these things or tagging along for these things?
Yeah, I think along the way, it sort of became, um, pushing myself outside my comfort zone. I think along with many other people, I'm sure, live their life just in a very comfortable state. And I wanted to see what it'd be like to continue to push my boundaries and my limits. And I feel like all those challenges help you grow and learn something about yourself. And so, what could I learn and what could I grow? And how could I learn to love the water in a different way and learn to love swimming in a different way? Um, and so, I think all those things played into it. In getting into the open water.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you think it's just a personality type? Do you think there's just some about because I'm the same way? Do you think we just like long for that adventure? Because I was doing the same, like swimming pregnant and long distance, whatever, all the things, and then right after, not whatever, 9 months or a year after having a baby. So Is it just like we're just these certain crazy people? Or do you think that we can convert them all? Convert them all? No.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess sort of what I talked about, like I don't know a moment in my childhood where I wasn't active in some way. I think it's just sort of driven into me throughout the years of how much time I've spent in different athletic pursuits that it's just part of who I am and part of my identity. So, I don't know what it would be like if it wasn't swimming, I'd probably be doing something else. And over the decades, like it has sort of shifted. Like at one point, I'd be swimming more, and then I'd be running more in triathlons, and now I'm sort of back into swimming. So it's interesting how life sort of takes different twists and turns depending on what's happening in the rest of your life, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Speak to that a little bit too, because you've got kids and you've
Yeah.
managed to keep doing and staying active with having kids. So, what's that like? How do you make that happen for yourself?
I would say my motherhood journey and having kids has been a huge part of my swimming journey too. It sort of led me to where I am or this journey I've been on the last year or two. So just as I feel like I was gaining speed, going to Chattanooga, tagging along to all these races, then life hits. And like within 3 to 4 years, I had three kids. I have a singleton and twins, and they're 21 months apart. The twins were early. They were in the NICU for 3 weeks. Also, during that time, both my husband and I had gotten laid off at
Oh
different
my
periods
gosh.
of time, which triggered a move. So we had to sell our house. We moved from Tennessee to Massachusetts with our 4-month-old twins, a 24-month-old and a dog into a two-bedroom apartment, not knowing how long we were going to stay there. But we did luckily find a house in, I think, a couple months. But within a couple weeks of being in Massachusetts, found out my husband was getting deployed for a year. He's in the Navy
Oh
Reserves.
my gosh.
And then soon after he left, like a week or two, COVID hit.
Oh my gosh.
And then we also at the time were figuring out like we have a neurodivergent kiddo who trying to work through the process and help her thrive, and it's a lot. So lots of life changes talking about kids, but we had lots of life changes happen within, like I said, a 3 or 4 to 5 year span. And I think I just dealt with a lot of struggle during that time with changes in my identity. Like a lot of my identity was wrapped up in work, which I'd gone to graduate school, gotten a certificate, like a big certificate for my job and worked for 10 years, but then got laid off. And then a lot was wrapped up in being able to travel and go backpacking and spend time with friends and athletic pursuits. But I feel like all that sort of shifted or like completely dropped on its head during
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It pulled out from under you.
Yeah. And then, motherhood, as much as I wanted kids and love my kids, I think it hit me like a little bit of a ton of bricks. I think a lot of people have expectations on parents and definitely moms about how your pregnancy should be, how your birth, how your postpartum, how you're raising your kids or feeding or sleeping or whatever. And when you go into your motherhood journey and, have these expectations that don't happen, which in life with kids, nothing ever happens how you expect it to. Um, it leads to lots of disappointment and maybe mourning experiences that you thought you would have that you didn't, or feeling like a failure. And a lot of, so along with like mentally not feeling well, physically, you have kids, your body changes. I had 60 to 70 pound weight gains in my pregnancy and unplanned C-section after 2 hours of unmedicated labor. My body was
Wow.
rocked. So like just feeling like, the thought of like getting back into the water after having kids and where I had literally no mental space or energy or and just from a timing standpoint, trying to juggle three young kids. I mean, I think at one point we were going through 25 diapers a day or
Oh
something,
my
30
gosh.
diapers a day. And you add all these like life change, like every single life change that you could happen. It just yeah, it's tough. I think I struggled with how you fit swimming in. Like, I think it started to become a little bit of a chore. Um, Even though I liked the water and liked swimming, instead of being something that was fun and freeing and something that was built around community, I was training at weird times, waking up early, trying to like get a babysitter when my husband was traveling so I could go swim or rushing, like checking my watch to see, okay, I have to be out this time because I have to take a kid to soccer and to, a birthday party. And so it just, the fact that I was doing it mostly by myself, it started to become very mechanical. And I do feel like I started to lead every season, started to feel more of like a burnout of how do I, and there are many, many years during that point, or within even like the last 8 years where sometimes I wasn't swimming at all, like during COVID or when my husband was gone, or, um, there could be a year where I wasn't doing anything. So, um, yeah, so it's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you, so it sounds like you were still managing. I mean, so there was the COVID year, you move all the, rug getting pulled out from under you, trying to make it on your own with three kids. But somehow you found footing and started swimming again, but it became a bit of the chore swimming. It wasn't the playful. So tell me, take me a little bit into like how you or what you were doing in that because you were still building distance. Is something you did the Lido Key and the Portland Bridge, and where did those ones fit in here? And then what did you like kind of your building journey back into, I guess, where you were this year?
Yeah, I did those and a couple other swims, I think. But I I sort of I feel like the last year or two was able to poke my head out of the sand a bit and realize like my kids are a little bit older. I was able to start feeling a little bit physically and mentally more like myself and um started to commit to myself on this journey. It sounds sort of cheesy, but it's sort of a parallel journey with my life and swimming of like moving from this state of just surviving to thriving. Like how do I find my identity again and what brings me joy and not only in life but in the water, like taking me back to the boogie boarding in the ocean for the whole day or how do I sort of reclaim that joy and identity that I had before. Yeah, and I think I had like lost my connection with the water and just I wanted to be able to get that back. And now, like the last 2 years, I would say I've been, like I said, a bit had a little bit more mental space to do
Yeah.
it. And I knew that there had to be a better way. Um, I knew for myself and just the logistics and life that, going to the pool and banging out 5,000 yards every day and trying to go through these long swims on the weekend, like I knew that for me, that wasn't going to be sustainable. And so I was trying to figure out like, how can I work smarter, not harder? I mean, I always saw my dad growing up with his marathon planning and how he would, he's busy with work and life and the kids and trying to figure out ways. And he would always harp that, working smarter, not harder, and in terms of your training plans. And I still wanted to accomplish big things, but I needed to figure out how I could do it and fit it in.
And that was so you did Border Buster, just kind of going through the motions, right? Or not the motions, but like feeling maybe that pressure to put in yards, like tell me. And then I know, we met a year ago now, almost exactly, actually. No, maybe, yeah, it was October, right around this time. But yeah, take us through that transition because it did become smarter, not harder for you, right?
It did, yeah. So I think, yeah, with Border Buster, I had these contradicting feelings. I finished feeling just great with what I accomplished. I got to the end and I was like, is that it? Like I can keep going. Like what would it be like to keep going? Like, and I'd never felt that before, but I had showed up to that swim physically and sort of mentally burnt out. I was like exhausted all the time. My muscles were constantly sore. Mentally, I was just having a hard time juggling, all the different life stuff and swimming. And just also was becoming a bit bored. Like I didn't have a lot of purpose in sort of my day-to-day swimming. I'd show up, I'd have my Ziploc bag with all my practices that I had written, like 20 practices on sheets. I'd flip through them and be like, what am I doing today? Okay, I'm going to jump in and go. And, I realized that as much as I'm a goal-driven person, like some of these swims you're signing up for a year in advance, like even some are like 2 or 3 years in advance. Like it's great to have the goal, but I was realizing I needed to find more purpose in sort of the day to day and appreciating the journey along the way and how I sort of define success. And so I think I was missing out on the opportunity of like every day is a day you can get better. And how do you get better each day to make progress forward? Instead, it was just sort of like, swimming to swim or like and I would turn my brain off and I would think through my to-do lists or I would work through something or whatever the case may be. And I think, yeah, sort of looping it back around, like that purpose in what I was doing and the curiosity of this my swimming and the water was not there. So I was trying to figure out ways that I could bring that back. And I realized in over, you know, 20 years or so, I don't think I had concentrated on my technique at all. Like my shoulder was starting to hurt a bit. And like I said, my muscles were very sore in ways that I didn't think they should be sore. So it, I started to think about like, how could I be a student again of the sport? Which is really hard. Change is really, really hard. Especially when you've been doing something for over 35 years. But it was a way for me to sort of, I don't know, like reinvent myself a little bit in my swimming and in the sport. And um, I mean, you're never, like throughout this period, I've realized you're never too old to change. It's just a matter of if you want to change.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so I think I had been following, I think you and Swim Mastery for a while and the clinic, I went to a Swim Mastery clinic in Boston and I think that really sparked the change and the path that I've been on the last year or so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, after Border Buster, you were committed to doing something longer, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know, I guess I had signed up for the search shortly after that.
As we do in that dopamine high after
Yeah.
completing something. We're like, I got to do this again. It's so great.
Yeah, usually that's how it works. It's like I sign up
Yep.
for something and then 2 weeks later, I'm like, what did I just do?
Exactly.
What am I doing?
Yeah. So tell us what it's been like since you've taken on or jumped on the swim mastery spiral of learning.
Yeah, I think I don't know, some of the things that I've learned is just presence. So in the water, I think that um I've been someone that's always struggled with what's next, or like, what's the next goal I'm working on? And you miss the small moments in between. And so that's in just like a life connection. But for swimming, like I said, I would sort of turn my brain off and just go through the motions. And I've realized over the last year the power of turning your brain on while you swim and being present in the water and figuring out ways that you can better position your body to swim more efficiently, and using my technique and efficiency to guide me as I swim instead of fighting the water or just swimming to swim. So I think that's been one powerful takeaway from it. And I think also, maybe not as directly tied to swim mastery or whatnot, but just as I've exposed my kids to swimming and the water, I've, over the years, I've recently realized how much just being with them and being in the water, watching them splash around and jump off the dock and, dive for shells or whatever the case may be, has brought a lot more lightness into what I'm doing and a lot of perspective, which I guess also like so mastery has given me too, but like just perspective in what I'm doing, and also just the fun and the play that maybe wasn't there in the past, and sort of bringing that back and finding joy in that again. So at the end of the day, no one's making me do this. Like, I'm choosing to do this. And so if I'm just going through the motions and not improving and not getting better and feeling burnt out, like what's the point? So sort of shifting and reframing a mindset around growth and improvement and fun and play and just a connect. I think swim mastery is also that connection that I said I lost in the water. It helps you get that connection back, and sort of I've been learning how to get that back.
Yeah, it's been beautiful to watch. And I think similarly, I never know if it's a life stage thing, like is it just or that my kids are just at the right age that I have the view, like the perspective, like you said, or if swim mastery just came into the fold, like was like it's not, there's no one answer, but it's like all those things coming together and how it's empowered me, right? And so like that all gets to be part of our journey to get us to where we are. But tell us a little bit more about your year this year, because you had a pretty epic year. And I think it's also worth pointing out to listeners is like how much like you like to check the boxes. And so there was some letting go that needed to happen to to embrace this presence. So maybe just a little bit more on that.
Well, I guess, like I mentioned, I signed up for the search up in Vermont and then quickly realized, what did I just sign up for? But that's a 25-mile swim up in Lake Memphregog. And I also had signed up for, I had been here now for a couple years, and I had always heard of the Boston Light Swim. I was, even though I'm been swimming my whole life, very intimidated a little bit of it. Just I hadn't done a whole lot of ocean swimming just because of access to it up until this point. And people said, the ocean is cold over here, so I hadn't had a lot of cold water exposure, but I signed up for the lottery and got in. So I guess I'm doing this. And it was also the first time in probably a very long time where I got to the end of that season of scheduled swims and wasn't burnt out and said, I think I have more. Like, what can I do? And so I had reached out to MAUSA, the Massachusetts Open Water Swimming Association, and hooked up with them and got to do a swim around Nahant, which is a 8.4-mile swim in the ocean. So it's like in terms of pushing distance, Lake Memphregog, just in terms of what I thought I could even do 5 years ago. Like I'd never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever be swimming 25 miles. So, you know, a long swim there, and then two ocean swims. And Nahant was, cold for what I thought was cold, and it didn't bother me. So again, just sort of starting to push my limits in different ways and gaining a lot of confidence along the way on what I potentially could do. So I think I'm I am very hard on myself and my own worst critic. And so I'm probably the only thing that stands between me accomplishing something or not. So I think this season is, being challenged in different ways and, growing in different ways and learning about myself and my swimming is definitely given me a lot of confidence to move forward.
Yeah. And I mean, in the water, but also, I'm excited to see how that carries over too, because I think it can and does. It's interesting just hearing a little bit more of your backstory. Like your search was not easy. You were fighting seasickness in, well, like whatever we call it, motion sickness in the water the whole time, but understanding what you went through with that really tumultuous time of moving and your husband being deployed and three kids under two. It's no wonder to me like how you were able to push through that. Like at the time when you were just like, yeah, I just, I felt sick within whatever, an hour or two, and then you end up swimming for 12 more. I'm like, how did she do that? But I'm like, oh yeah, you've got it. It's just in you. Like you just push through. You just make it happen. I'm not there yet. And you keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's times that you're going to feel great swimming and times that you aren't. And so you have to be comfortable sitting there in the uncomfortable um and I think a lot of that is a mental battle. I don't think I once thought I was going to, be halfway through and give up, even if I was throwing up and not feeling well. So yeah, I think 25 miles, even if I was not feeling well, seemed easy compared to being alone during COVID with three kids, three and under. So
Right. Going through 25 diapers a day.
yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing how those little skills in the moment, like when you were dealing with that, like you never thought that would be that you were, we were building grit. But have
Yeah.
you? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember just like I had this double carrier. So I'd strap a kid on the front, the kid on the back, and then I'd have my 2-year-old and we go out just behind the house walking just to like get out.
I did a
So
lot of walking during COVID, like all of the baby years. Yeah, we just walked and walked and walked. Trying to think how to tie it up in a bow. It's so, I guess the other thing I want to mention too is just because it was so, like, it just amazed me just how, like, you were so extremely coachable. I imagine that's just something you've been all your life. Like, it's just like, because it's like, I'm like, okay. She's like, you were telling me, like, I've got Boston Light coming up, and, I don't know how I'm going to get ready for the cold, and I don't have time to, like, go swim in cold water. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe just a few minutes of cold at the end of your shower. And like 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, I take cold showers all the time. It's just like, what? So when you put your mind to something, obviously you do it.
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, there's I don't know, there's power in showing up. Like I think my superpower maybe is consistency. Like obviously you have to listen to your body and you have to respect the rest and when it's telling you not to do something. But, I think I've always been someone that shows up even if I didn't want to or I'm tired or and sort of push through things, maybe to my detriment at times. I'm learning to take a step back. But yeah, I think also maybe I didn't convey to you, but I was always very skeptical. Like I think like anyone, when you've been doing something for 35 years, it's hard to change. And it's like, okay, is this really going to work? Or like, what am I like, why am I doing this? Or you start to revert back to like, okay, like I feel like I should be doing this. Like, and so, but it's trusting the process and like I said, you have your willingness to change and embrace that. So, I've always been, I would say, a learner, like someone who likes to learn new things and try new things. And um, I think this was just another stepping stone to that.
Yeah, I don't know if it, for me, that like in retrospect, when I think about the hard time, my kids were 21 months apart and I didn't have three, I only had two. But when I think about that period of my time, I don't think of it as being a learning period until now. When I look back, I'm like, obviously you're learning every day because you're learning, like adapting to how to care for this screaming child and a needy toddler. And, but it is an interesting thing when we open that door back up. And I mean, you did a graduate program, but I feel like for me, when I like took the plunge and did the swim mastery coach training, like it really much felt like, oh wow, yeah, we can learn for the rest of our lives. And it's so interesting how, yeah, and for me, like it just same, I like had just like I hadn't considered that, you know, that you can keep learning and swimming when you've just done it for so long. I must just know everything, right? But
Um,
that we can open that door and just keep like seeing what else is there. I was just thinking this morning how it's like the more that I let go of a need for certainty, the more like comes to me and like knowledge and experience and like uplift, like just buoyancy in my life when I let go of that need for like I know what to do even. So it's just it's fascinating to me, and that's kind of the same thing I think in the water. It's like if I think that I'm doing everything, all each shape, you know, if you think about our swim mastery, streamline, you know, all the things, it's like if I think I'm doing it, it becomes more robotic. But when I let go of this, like, am I doing it? And I'm just feeling the water and I'm sending my energy forward, then you're just doing it, right? Fascinating.
yeah, it is. It is amazing. And I think you have to let go of like all preconceived ideas and your ego, and you just gotta, like I said, trust that the process and be open to learning, so and improving.
Yep. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Erica. You're amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.